more analysis. Joining us live is Gordon Flake, the CEO of the Perth USAsia Centre. Gordon, good to see you. Thanks for your time. The easing of those trade restrictions is obviously great news for our farmers, but why do you think China's making that move now? Is it all down to having a new government in Canberra, or is there more behind the timing here, do you think?
Certainly, there's more behind the scenes. A couple of weeks ago, I understand that the World Trade Organization let it be known to both Australia and China that it was likely that Australia would win this case. And so China clearly didn't want to have that embarrassing decision in the World Trade Organization and go against it publicly. So in this respect, I'm a little bit ambivalent. On the one hand, it's good to have the potential for returning to normal. China took actions 3 years ago that were in clear violation of the World Trade Organization rules. They've yet to pay a price for that. Australian barley farmers paid that price. And now we're, again, I appreciate quiet diplomacy, but we're looking at a situation where China will be able to quietly back down and yet face no penalty for its actions.
Well, no backing down when it comes to China's position on Taiwan. We've seen in recent days military drills underway after the Taiwanese leader met with American political leaders in the US. That's a retaliation, I guess, that we all should have expected.
Again, I'm hesitant to call this retaliation. None of us would consider a meeting something that would warrant a violation of Taiwan's economic zones around this country, its kind of security perimeter. What we've seen is both last year when the then U.S. Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, visited Taiwan, and this time again where the Taiwanese president visited in the United States and met with the current U.S. Speaker of the House of Representatives, China has used this as an opportunity to normalize actions that any other time would be seen as Chinese aggression. They are basically salami slicing tactics that normalize missiles tests over Taiwan, that normalize very proactive and provocative Chinese military actions against the people of Taiwan.
We saw the French president meet with President Xi this week. It seemed like Macron was pretty keen for Europe to essentially stay in its own lane when it comes to some of these regional issues that we're contending with in the South China Sea.
Yeah, by all accounts, Macron was the target of Chinese flattery, and it worked a treat. He ended up saying a lot of things in China that he's now had to walk back now that he's back in France, just because he was so egregiously, under the sway of Xi Jinping, if you will, and all the flattery and all the pomp and circumstance he received there. In the end, his comments on Taiwan have given the greatest concern. His suggestion that neither France nor anyone in Europe had interest in accelerating the situation in Taiwan is a tie to your previous question, right? At this point, I think it's safe to say that Taiwan, the United States, Europe, including France, support the status quo in Taiwan. The question is, who is changing the status quo? And if you see these military responses in China and China's increasing threat in Taiwan, that's what we're trying to avoid. And so the question is, does the ambiguity in statements like coming out of President Macron make it more or less likely that China will act on Taiwan? And if you believe in fundamental principles of deterrence, then some clarity in terms of the international condemnation of attempting to solve the Taiwan issue by force, I think is helpful. So I think kind of what President Macron has done this week is counterproductive and dangerous.
And is there much ambiguity, do you think, around our own Prime Minister's decision not to attend those upcoming NATO talks? I see he's under quite a bit of pressure from some quarters to do so.
Yeah, look, I personally would love to see him there, just because the level of cooperation and the shared values between Australia and NATO is such that having an Australian voice at that table is a useful thing. On the other hand, I fully recognize that this has been an extraordinarily busy first year of travel and diplomacy for the Prime Minister. You can't attend to everything. And so I wouldn't read too much into it. But on the plus side, or the other side, I certainly would rather see greater cooperation between Australia and NATO. I think it's good that Australia was invited, and unfortunate that this time it doesn't look like it's going to work out in terms of the schedule.
Gordon Flake, appreciate you making the time. Thank you.